heard. Oh, what you know about me? Oh, what you know about me? Oh, what you know about me?
Hey everybody, we are back. Welcome to another episode of More Than the Title. I'm your host as usual, Jared Thomas, Chief Revenue Officer at Outside the Box Digital. And I'm joined by my amazing co-host, the Chatty-O, CEO of Outside the Box Digital, aka Pastel Chatty. How are you doing, baby?
Your favorite CEO's CEO.
There you go. See, he's ready to par.
You already know. And you know the motto. If it ain't bright, it ain't right. I got on my rose gold headphones today. You know what I'm saying? Add some color to it. You know what I'm saying? Let them know. We ready to par.
I'm ready, baby. So
hold on. The reason I switched up is because that episode we had last week was so fire.
Yes.
It smoked the headphones out.
Oh man, thank God. So V, to give you context on last week's episode, on the live stream, King Richard, Venus and Serena Williams' father came on the show and to give us a shout out.
Amazing.
Crazy.
Never had it happen. So
Never.
Thank you to everybody who supported. Thank you, King Richard, Mr. Williams. Thank you so much.
Mr. Williams, you don't know him like that.
I call him King Richard.
You call him King Richard.
Come on, baby. If you hear this, cut this out. Oh, I don't know. But everybody, thank you again for joining in for another More Than the Title episode. So before we begin, shout out to our sponsors, the Live Podcast Network. Their new app 2.0 version has just been released. So if you want more great content like ours, you please download the app, support. Shout out to Angel and the entire team, and shout out to every listener and supporter. We grow with you guys. But let's get
Wait. You missed it. You was on point last week and you missed it already.
Exclusive.
Come on. I thought you was ready to par, baby.
Exclusive part.
Brought to you exclusively by the Alive Podcast Network. You can't forget that word, man.
It's a big word.
Yeah.
But let's get into it, everybody.
Let's go.
Thank you again for the love, everybody. But we got a great guest today. Like, I was excited about this. I'm excited about all of them, but this one right here. So let's introduce. So this young lady is the CEO of the James Agency, which is a strategic insights-led marketing agency in Scottsdale. She launched TJA in 2005 and since grown from a one-woman shop into an award-winning integrated agency that specializes in advertising, public relations, and digital marketing. The James Agency also implemented its updated business model called the Stratagem in 2023, and it's basically entirety of the agency offering. So through this thorough discovery process, intentional exercises built around the business future, and insightful consultative intelligence and more. So I want to introduce our special guest, Veronique James. How are you?
Yeah.
Thanks for the layup.
Yes. First of all, listen. Next time, V, we gotta use shorter words.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell?
I'm
squinching. I'm like, what the hell is that?
Listen, eight syllables the most.
Make things sound pretty, right? Yeah. Thanks to my girl Molly.
Yeah.
Well done, Jarrett. Yeah. Thanks for having me, you guys. It's super fun. Love your energy, both of you. It's really cool to see collaboration and creativity happening between you. It reminds me of how we started, right? Is some bright, big minds in a room coming together with a vision and, making shit happen and getting people to fall in love with your brand and cultivating a community around that is a really magical thing. So kudos to you guys.
Yeah. Oh man, that was so lovely, V. That was lovely, V. Oh my goodness.
Listen, keyword community. We're going to touch on that because, keyword is she said community and that's dope that she started off that way.
Absolutely. But I'm going to tell all the listeners, I'm going to lay it up for the listeners, right? So I reached out. Molly reached out. We're connected on LinkedIn, right? She said, I have a great guest for you, right? And she said, Veronique, she's a great, she's the CEO of this company. They built from a multi-million-dollar agency, and she did it from her couch. And I'm sitting on my couch trying to build a multi-million-dollar agency. And so I said, the 15th is good. Whenever day you And so we booked it, and I was just excited. So if you want to start there, Veronique, I would love to know the early days. But
wait. Before we go too crazy, what kind of couch you got, Veronique? Because maybe you on the wrong couch, Jared. I don't know. We might
Flanagan.
Flamer Flanagan. Ashley Stewart. You got the Ashley Stewart couch or something. I need to know what couch it is because I might have to order that tomorrow or something.
I must have the Rent-A-Center.
All right.
Got to bring it back.
That's definitely part of the story. Let's call it the hustle couch, right? The hustle couch for now. So here's the story. Born and raised in California, went to University of Arizona for a graphic design degree, actually started in architecture, ended up in a VisCom degree, which is like a business graphic design degree. Found myself in Phoenix shortly after graduation because I had some extended family here and it was an easy place to live, right? Phoenix at low cost compared to California. And I was really, really privileged. I came out of college with a dad who made sure that I was debt free, but he did say, when you're graduated, you're done, right? So you're on your own. So it was important for me on my last year of school to find a job before I graduated. And while all my friends went off to do the European, partying and all the things that post-grads do, right? I hit the pavement really hard. And I started working in a small agency right out of school, small being 7 people maximum. Learned a lot as a junior designer, kind of got thrown into the deep end pretty early on and learned a lot about business and dealing with clients are crazy sometimes, right? It's hard because they've got these unpredictable expectations and there's some things there. So learned a lot. It was a female-led agency, which was also super cool to see a woman, really trailblazing that and setting a mentorship for me. Shortly after that, I fell in love. And right after that, I realized I probably should not have gotten married so early out of school, but sure enough, I did get married. And same time around then, after I got married, I was working at a large agency, which now looking back in context, I call that agency a large agency, but today we are larger in scale and revenue and clients than what that, so it's funny how in perspective, but it was a large agency. They did a lot of corporate, large hotels, like big brands that you would recognize. And I made my way kind of up the corporate ladder. That's what you're supposed to do in your path, right? Is work hard, you put in the time, loved the craft, loved the clients, big budgets, traveling, all over to work on these hotel clients, fell in love with hospitality in general and the art of connecting brands to guests. Did not love the corporate, sterile environment and,
bureaucracy.
And there's some hierarchies there and politics and, it didn't seem like anybody was having any fun. No one really liked each other. They were clocking in and clocking out. And around the same time that, I was kind of realizing that this just wasn't for me, right? I kept saying to myself, man, there's got to be a better way to do this. I didn't go to school for business. I had no idea what it meant to do something different. I just knew something wasn't aligning for me. Around that time, I found out that my husband of just a year was leveraging my perfect, pretty debt-free credit score to pay off his own debt. Now you got to remember, this is well over 20 years ago. So there wasn't all the fun automatic notifications that we have now at our fingertips, right? But he was utilizing the community opportunity of our shared finances to pay off his student loans and unfortunately.
Wait. I just want hold on. I just want you to know some things you just can't power through. We gonna stop you because we gotta address some. We got to address some things. So before you said, when you got married, you said, in hindsight, you look back and said, maybe you shouldn't have gotten married so early. Was that one of the reasons that you feel that way? Because, you feel like your husband wasn't in it for you as far as like loving you and being in a relationship, but more in it with you as a financial standpoint?
You start seeing some of that writing on the wall, right? And how the heck do you know yourself at 23 years old? Exactly. Really? I mean,
so that's right.
You think you know everything, right? As a young business person or, in life. And I'm still learning today, 20 plus years later, about myself and, all the life decisions of adulting, right? So, but you start seeing some things and there were some weird kind of fishy stuff happening. And so one day I stayed home from work because I was sick. I wasn't feeling good. And I get a knock on the door. And sure enough, it's a trustee courthouse serving us papers to foreclose on our home. Wow. So he had been taking, our shared finances, and I was a bit naive, and and he wasn't paying our mortgage. He was paying off his debt. He was using my credit score to open and my social to open credit cards. And and it was at that moment that I went down this really dark rabbit hole of recognizing what started to happen. And within less 24 hours, I had moved out and learned shortly thereafter that there was over $250,000 of liability that he had racked up over in time in my name. Right. And so no time like the present when Disgusting. Your life is just like, right. I decided to quit my job. I said, you know what? like nothing's better. And if you will know me, when I'm provided failing data, I turn shit around. Pardon the cross statement there, but I don't like to fail. I don't like the feeling of people taking advantage of me. So, so I moved out and filed for divorce. And my parents, I love my parents, but they said, this is the bed of which you have made. You will navigate this. This is a responsible decision that you need. And so there was a lack of support, financially. And so nothing drives hustle like desperation of cash, right? When you're trying to start over your life. And I promise I'll get to the point of the couch here in a second. But when you start over in your life, so, I resigned and I put in my 3 weeks of notice. And the best compliment I got on my last day, we were at a client event on my last day of full-time employment. And my boss came up to me and he said, I'm really proud of you. And one day you're going to rule the world. And for your employer to say that on your last day of work, I was like, yes, it's a really genuine,
Doesn't happen.
Right?
So wait a minute though.
Doesn't happen.
Mean, again, we can't let you just speed by that, right?
Okay.
Because marriage is a big deal. Even though some people don't look at it as that, it is a union that's supposed to be a spiritual union, right? That's what it's based off of, right? Spirituality, right? So you got married, you made this big decision at such a young age, right? Now, when things went left, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. If I was in debt, and somebody had did that to me, the very first idea in my head would not be to quit my job.
I swear I'm thinking the same thing.
I'm not even gonna lie to you.
I swear I thought the same thing.
I'm gonna be like, yo, can I get some overtime? I'm gonna work a double today. And I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I'm gonna try to double down on the security of, at least having a stable job, whatever the income level is, so that I could start planning on trying to dig myself out. What was the thought process that you had that said quit? Like, I'm curious, how did you correlate your relationship to your job and be like, I don't want none of this shit no more?
You talk about spirituality and some of the emotional, the emotives that go behind that. I think that there was a level of toxicity and grind that came from me working in that agency. And then there was a level of toxicity and grind of being in this marriage. And for me, a clean slate was pretty crucial in order for me to move forward. And so there was an emotional tie. And then, so there's that side, there's the emotional side, and then there's the physical component of capacity. And I knew I knew what it cost to get divorced. I knew what it cost to start over. And I also knew what I was getting paid per paycheck. And so there's a finite number here, or there's an unlimited number over here, right? When you create your own destiny, the ceiling is no longer. And so I'm doing the math here and I'm thinking, if I started a side hustle and I started to freelance and I charged $100 an hour and I put in 10 hours or 11 hours a day versus the 9 to 5, which obviously it was more than that, but I probably could get a pretty good perpetuitous business going on to support both the rebuilding of my life as well as capitalizing on my skill sets. And I would have that control over my future, which I had always had a lot of self-confidence that I could do that. So, it took some introspection. I'm not going to lie. It wasn't like an instant, I had to really think about this and decide, do I go for security and slow is smooth is fast and having this W-2 paycheck, or do I look at the opportunity to leverage my network and see if I can generate more? And you got to believe in yourself when you make a decision like that, because if there is a back door in your mind that you can exit your promise, you're going to take it. You're going to walk out there and be like, okay, I'm throwing in the bag, and I can't.
Yeah, that's a message. That's a gem.
That's a gem. That's a gem right there. That's that back door. That's a gem.
Right. Yeah. So there was no looking back for me, and nothing pushes hustle, like I said, more than desperation. And so, knowing that I had to fulfill this debt that had been awarded through the court system. Arizona is a community property state, and because we were married and it was my Social Security, court's like, you should have known about this. This is your problem. And so when we got divorced, 100% of it went to me. So, quick story, I left my home, my dogs, my cars, really started fresh. I have an amazing family member who took me in.
You left the dogs?
I took one dog.
Okay. I knew you ain't leaving more. I'm about to say, come on now. You left the puppies?
One dog.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. And my cousin was really welcoming and let me move in. And, I was living in a spare bedroom, and a friend of mine who was working in a peer agency heard about what I was going through and said, "Hey, do you have a computer?" And he gifted me one of his old computers. And it was truly amazing to have this culmination of support within a very short amount of time. A week or two, people were generously offering me help. And, the day after I left my agency, the next morning I woke up, I took a shower, I got dressed just as if I was going to get in the car and drive somewhere. I walked across the hallway, sat my butt down at the kitchen table, and I started working as if I was at my day job. And that was my practice. That's how I disciplined myself is, if I didn't do that, I know myself, if I didn't do that I would start taking liberties with my schedule, probably not delivering on the promise that I had made for myself, which is to be successful. So I found out about a week later when I went to go buy a car, and I test drove a car and fell in love with it. I'd had the cash for the deposit and getting ready to, do the deal. And the guy comes out with this like stack of papers, the finance manager, and he goes, "Ma'am, I'm not really sure how you're going to qualify for this. You have a 430 credit score." And I'm like, I beg your pardon. Like I knew that I had had this debt creep. I had no idea of the severity. So now I'm essentially homeless, crap credit, hardly any cash, right? I'm scraping dollars together, and again, fuel for the fire, right? It keeps me motivated. And I shortly thereafter, I did find a place to live of my own. And this was during a time where personal guarantees weren't as mandatory. And this lady just loved my passion and my story. And so she said, "Sure, you can rent my house." But I had no furniture. So I send an email to all my friends the day after I move into this rental. And I say, "Hey guys, I've got no money. I've got no furniture. I'm starting completely over. If any of you have furniture in storage that you're paying for no reason, would you mind if I took that off your hands, save you the storage payments, and then when you want it back, just let me know and I'll give it back to you." And within 45 minutes, somebody's like, "Oh, I have a bed frame. I have a desk. I have a kitchen table. I have a refrigerator." Within 24 hours, I had all this furniture, including the couch, from people who had shared their willingness and genuine, intention to support me in this new journey of my life. So, so the couch was a big part of the story, right? Because people, paid it forward to me, and I tried to do the same. But I worked real hard. I stuck my head in the sand, and I, made sure that I wasn't getting distracted by all the naysayers that kept telling me I couldn't do it. My parents, and when my divorce was final, which was about 6 months later, it was a tremendous amount of freedom, but it also was a sense of reality of like, you're on your own and you're creating your own destiny and your own brand. You have to do this meticulously, right? Like in lockstep, especially here in Phoenix. It's a small group of people like dominoes that really can impact your reputation in the positive or the negative. Right. A bunch of key stakeholders. So that's kind of the initial journey of how I started the business. $50 maybe at most in my pocket at any given time, sometimes looking for quarters in every crevice of my house to put money, gas in the car to make it to a client meeting. Ended up getting a car because a friend of mine could no longer make her payments on her Mercedes, her little 3 Series Mercedes or whatever that small coupe was. And so I'm like, "Girl, I'll pay your payments. You still get the credit, but at least it looks like I'm successful when I'm showing up for these client meetings." So there's like tip number 2, right? Act as if, and just kind of portray that intention. And so here I am rolling in this Benz, but it's not mine. People think, right, that I have this office when really I'm just working from my couch or my kitchen table. And one of my favorite stories I tell, Jarrett, to podcasters and people who ask me, they say, "Okay, so like, what do you mean act as if?" I built my own website. I got a separate phone number, a PO box, right? All the things to make it look like, it was. And clients would call this phone number and I'd pick up the phone and I'd answer it in a British accent.
I gotta hear it. I gotta hear it.
Yeah, I can't
Come on,
even.
no. There's no way you're doing that. No. There's no way. There's no way you're doing that. See, he knew it. He knew it. That's why he's laughing. It's no way you're doing that.
For real, I
I gotta hear
it was the
something. I
worst.
gotta hear a little.
But
you know,
the fact that you did, like as you're saying, as I'm hearing your story,
I gotta hear it.
Like, no, I'm so inspired and admired by everything you're
crazy.
saying. Like it's so crazy. Like, so for those listening, right, who may not be in the agency world, there's not stability there. Let's just put that for sake, right?
It's
based on the client,
for sure.
It's based on the intake, your client revenue. One drops off, it affects everybody. Like the pandemic, agencies went to hit during the agency, and the fact that you were going through that personal, and you just bet on yourself, and then you made the ask and utilize your resources around you. That's another gem, right? So you had to ask. Wait, we're gonna get there, but you had to ask. You had to ask other people to get your stuff. Like the fact that you did it. You know what I'm saying? You could have easily just fell off the cliff and just said, "I'm not doing it." $50. I know it and I love it because I'm doing it now.
Yeah.
And
I'm not kidding, Jared. There were days where like it was just a bottle of ketchup and a bottle of wine in my fridge, right? And that's all I got. That's all I had, right? And you just figure it out. I am not going to do the British accent because I will certainly offend somebody with it. But
let me tell
you the punchline about that.
It's about to tea or something.
Right? No. But let me tell you the punchline about that. One of the new clients that I had been awarded was in the infill multifamily space, like an apartment complex that I was working on. And turns out the client contact was British. And he calls me for the first time and I answer and he's like, and I used to put the phone down, like, hold please, just the phone down and then pick it back up as myself. And so he pretty much called me out on my bullshit. And I was like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. But, and there was an assortment of things that I used to do to make people feel a sense of confidence in me, right? When they'd say, can I come to your office? I'd say, oh, no, our value proposition is we make it easy. We come to you, we'll come to your office. Or, who else do you have on your team? I would call all of my freelance friends and like make business cards really fast and have them show up to the meeting when really I wasn't paying them anything. They were just doing me a favor, right? You just figure it out.
Hustle, figure it out.
Figure it out, right? And, landed a big client about 2 months later, a really notable client. And one of my really good college friends sent me an email one day and he said, hey, V, I am leaving my agency. I'm tired of the rat race. Do you mind looking at my portfolio and critiquing my work? And I wrote back right away and I said, actually, why don't you come meet me for breakfast? I've got an idea and I want to talk with you about what I'm working on right now. So he came and he met me for breakfast that morning and we ended up sitting at this community table at this local popular restaurant for 6 hours. And I told him all about my vision and what I've been working on and my history. And he says, yeah, I want to do this with you. And if we're going to do this, it's going to be different. And we're going to do it the way that we want to, which is having fun, having a safe place to work, loving the clients we work with, bringing them along. So there's not any of this, like, how could that have taken so long? Why does this cost so much money? Right? That's the contention that happens in our space.
Absolutely.
That gentleman, Shane Ting, is our chief creative officer and has been with us for 18 years. So he's a founding member of the agency. He doesn't have ownership, but he's our chief creative officer. And to be able to say that I've had a work partner that believed in the vision, fast forward almost, 2 decades later, it's a pretty incredible honor. So Shane and I had a vision and we believed in taking it to what we felt was the next level of the vacancy of what agencies were doing right now, right? Lack of heart-centered leadership, really having a close relationship with clients. Yeah. And as we'd earn a piece of business, the client would be like, hey, you did a great job on our logo or branding. Can you do PR for us? And we'd be like, looking up what PR means, in the background, and this is before all the digital, this is before social, this is before all the things, right? Yeah. But thus the PR department was born and we found a gal that was doing PR for us. And about a year in, it was like a boy band. It was like 7 dudes and myself, all contract employees. And I had a really, really great friend that was generously offering her time to play contract CEO and CFO for me. And she said, V, the IRS doesn't love that you have all these people coming to your house, working out of your home for upwards of like 40 hours a week. And you're paying them a pretty good perpetual paycheck without paying taxes. You need to convert these guys to W-2 employees. So overnight, we went from me and the boy band to 8 full-time, put your big girl pants on, paychecks and insurance and all those things, right? Like it was a turning point that I will never forget. And from there, it became this kind of like gorilla that you had to keep feeding, right? So they couldn't come to my office or to my home anymore. We didn't have room on the couch. So had to go out and look for a small office and found an 800 square foot space. If you guys remember the movie The Boiler Room, that's what it felt like to me. We were all in this like bullpen and it was like straight startup style, right? Like loud music, working till midnight, having the best time, you know, booze in the middle of the day, clients coming in and hanging out, stuff pinned up all over the wall, super creative. And it honestly, it was some of the best times that I can remember of starting the business. And while I always was trying to get to the next level, I wish I had just taken a beat and really appreciated the freedom, the camaraderie, the creativity, and the scrappiness. Like, remember the iPhone 1 or 2, you know, a bazillion years ago? Shane used to take that and stick it in a bowl on speakerphone. And that would be like our conference phone for our clients. And we would use the bowl as the amplifier, right? Like you just kind of figured it out. We'd buy all of our furniture secondhand, IKEA, all of our computers were off of eBay. Like, and because I couldn't access credit, I didn't have a credit card, didn't have a line of credit. We only spent money when we had cash in the bank.
That's super important as well.
Message.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, you know, we can't go past that right there, you know. So, I mean, you know, that journey, I mean, again, right, the journey that you're taking, at each step of the game, you're implying more risk, right? But you're doing it in a way that makes you comfortable to say, like, there's no other way, right? We have to do this. We have to move forward, right? And it's very important what you said before, that you didn't even go to business school. So there's a word for what you're doing, and we talk about it all the time. It's called winging it. You were winging it.
And
I just DIY the shit out of it. Right?
You was flying. You was flying.
You was winging it. But it just, you know, it's a testament to your creativity and your ambition that, like you said, you just stuck with it, right? If you didn't know it, you learned it or you researched it and you gave it a try, and you know, and you got the right people in your corner, because support is everything.
But another gem too, though, when you brought in the CFO, right? Yeah. So I was in that same boat, right? So I got fired in August. I know the audience heard this. I'm gonna give you the quick version. I got fired in August from Hootsuite. I have a brand of like 20,000 followers on LinkedIn. I've got a lot of connections. I'm like, I couldn't get a job. I'm applying to everything. It's like, no, I don't get it. I'm like, why am I doing this when I got this and that? But I don't know finance. And what else? I'm a good creative mind, but I don't actually execute the stuff. Like, I'm not in Adobe Photoshop. I'm not doing those things. I can give you ideas all day, but I need people to execute. So I called my cousin. I called Chad. I'm like, he has successful businesses. Can you come on? Can you be our CEO? There he goes. Within a week, we got the business running, and then we got our first client within a week. And then I also had Jordan, our other partner. He connected with me on LinkedIn. We had a random phone conversation, just asked me to mentor him. And I'm like, I just loved his energy. And I'm like, man, let's just do something together. Randomly, a couple weeks later, I'm starting a podcast. I have no name, no anything. I don't have StreamYard. I barely have a microphone. I'm just like, we got 2 guests. We're just going to go for it. And he just came on, and we gave him equity. We all split the equity. And now we're 6 months in, winging it just like you're doing. No cold calls, no emails. And we're a 6-figure business right now because we're doing it. Like, thank you so much. Yeah. But your hustle is like, oh my God, I'm doing that right now. Yeah. Oh my God.
You're doing it right though, you guys. And I mean, that's amazing because the testament there, and the best entrepreneurs that I know are the ones who take the risks, right? And it's 1% of the economic community that's willing to really dig in their heels and say, I believe in myself and I'm going to do whatever it takes. And the 1% of the 1% are doing what you're doing, which is they're eliminating all the excuses, right? So, you know, I use an example of like a friend of mine who he's like, oh, I just don't have time to go to the gym. I'm like, cool, build a gym in your house. Oh, you know, I don't have blah, blah, blah. I'm like, cool, sign up for Peloton. It's $36 a month. You know, I don't have any weights. Great, Amazon. Here's a package. It's $100. Like, get rid of all the excuses, get rid of all the friction and the barrier. The best entrepreneurs are the ones that take the risk and they get rid of all the choke points, all the pauses. And you guys are doing that and you're on track, right?
That's a clip, V. You know, I'm just letting you know we're clipping that up. Oh my God, that was beautiful.
But I can't let that go. It's a testament also to the people that wanted to work with you genuinely and believed in you, right? Yeah. And we talk about this all the time, right? In our communities, more often than not, everybody wants the finish line, right? this new generation, these newer generations, we call them the instant gratification generations, the IG
Right.
generation. You don't want, you just want the fancy cars, the big house, but you don't want to do all the work that it takes to get there. You don't know what it took to get there, how long it took to get there, and you don't want to know it. You just want it now. So it's a testament to finding people that believe in you. And I mean, believe in you truly, where you can say, hey, listen, we might have to work 6 months without getting paid. You still willing to work with me? You still willing to build with me? You know, we might not eat, you know, every day,
And that
or, you know, the
happens.
best meals. Right.
Yeah,
that's
we
what I'm
eat
saying,
ramen.
right?
That's it.
Right.
I mean,
we eat ramen. Right.
There were days where with
Yeah.
Shane, I'm like, okay, I know that you're up for a raise, but I'm going to have to push this 6 months. And he'd be like, whatever you need. Right.
Love it.
Because we believed it. So yeah, building that community of trust, I think, is crucial, and honoring those relationships as you get big too, because one of the clients that believed in me in my early years is still a client today. And they're a large hotel company, and you know, the relationship that we have and the trust of him seeing me through our journey, you know, as growing the agency is pretty special. That's not something that you can constantly say in your professional path. And so respect, you know, those people, because they'll be a part as long as you allow them and you repay that, you know, and that trust and respect. I think it can go, you know, tenfold in return for anybody like yourselves who've got the hustle, the grind, and are getting the work done. So, you know, it was such a fun time. The early years were super fun, but to your point, I wanted the next level every time. So for me, I don't really sit a whole lot in celebrating the wins. I'm the kind of person who's like, okay, cool. Okay, move on. What's the next thing? What's the next level? You know, how are we leveling up? And that's not for everybody. I know that my personality is a lot, and it can be fairly intense, but I'm confident that going through the early years of a business and being scrappy or bootstrap or, you know, winging it, as you guys say, taught me a lot about what was to come, because shortly thereafter we had the Great Recession of 2008. And at that juncture, the agency now was about 10 people. I was responsible for all of these livelihoods and having a safe place to work. And we were predominantly working on really cool apartment complexes. That became the niche that we were focused on. And the real estate market crashed. I mean, especially in Arizona, right? And so rather than me being like, well, that's it, I'm going to throw in the towel, right? Which I think a lot of people would typically do, because that's the barrier of entry, right? That's the excuse. We all sat in a room and we spent a minute together whiteboarding all of the dream clients that we want to work with. And we just wrote them down. I mean, large, small brands, industries, we just manifested everything that we possibly could think of. And the coolest thing was 3 months later, we went back to that and we had won like 60% of either the client or the industry. And it fully turned the portfolio around in less than 3 months because we put in the effort, right? And that was really cool because we started picking up hotel clients and food and beverage clients. And all of a sudden, overnight, now we're a diversified agency that's handling multiple types of asset classes. And that was a great learning lesson. Again, no access to credit, no credit lines, no capital partners, right? We're still DIYing this, but now we're up to about 12, 15 people, and it's time for a new space. That 800 square foot office is getting pretty tight. So
yeah, we gotta throw that. Come on, baby, we leveling up.
Always, right?
VV, I've got to ask you, because you're taking us on a journey, and I'm visualizing everything you're saying.
Let's go.
So when you started and you got to the recession, throughout the business, even then, what was the toughest decision you had to make with the business? Like, what was the hardest point in the business, and what was the biggest lesson you learned from that particular situation?
So the hardest lesson I've had to deal with is COVID, which I'll tell you about that next. But at that time, the decision for me was how many chips do I put on the table, right? I think that you get to a point where I talked about like eliminating the barriers, eliminating the excuses, but like how much do you go all in on yourself, and at the risk of potentially putting yourself as an entrepreneur, you know, on the line to support the people of who are depending on you. And, you know, there's a saying, it's like, keep it small, keep it all, or, you know, I've heard some of those like adages out there. And I believed that if I wanted to go far, I had to take everybody with me. And so that's a turning point for an entrepreneur when revenue gets tight and you're in a recession and all signs are pointing to doomsday. Do you start cutting people left and right to keep the cash to yourself because that's all of your equity, right? A majority of entrepreneurs put all of their, financials into their business. And
yeah.
and I just
can't rush through that.
I just doubled down on it, right?
Yeah.
I put all the chips on the table. I said, no, I'm going to keep y'all. We're going to go hard and go fast. And it turned out it worked. So that was a lesson for me of, instead of retreating and cutting as much as I could off the P&L, to keep everybody busy, start looking for new opportunities in different sectors that weren't affected by this recession. And it worked. Right. So, but to your point, like you just don't know, you're winging it. And even today, like some of my staff, they look at me for all the answers. And I'm like, y'all know that I'm just guessing and I'm trusting my intuition right now. Like, yeah, I use a lot of data and a lot of facts and history, but even today, when there's something new that comes to the table that I genuinely have nothing to rely on, trust my gut. You kind of double down on it. You go all in. If it doesn't work, you fix it, right? You adapt, you turn the dial. So the agency didn't get its first, we hit our first million, I think year 2, right? And that was a big monument for me. I'll never forget, I had a big stretch Hummer limo come pick up the team spontaneously, and we went and partied that afternoon and did some fun stuff together.
You celebrated that though? You celebrated that though?
Well, I mean, yeah,
Okay. You have to.
I mean, she said she don't celebrate, so she said that million though.
1 million, no.
We
From
going to the
$50
strip
to $1 million?
4 hours, yeah, right? For like 4 hours. And then we went right back to work, right back to the grind. So
that's a hell of a happy hour.
Right, exactly. Yeah, but the agency, the agency got its first credit card shortly thereafter that, because we were liquid, so we could go to the banks and say, please, give us something. American Express, and sure, there were limits there, so we didn't have unlimited spending, but I was very conscientious of not overextending on debt. And with Amex, how it is, you got to pay it off by the end of the month, otherwise they charge you interest. So we got into a really good habit of where we're using that just as kind of like a micro line of credit, and found a bigger office because we had maxed out our space. And I found this space kind of literally just across the street from our little 800 square foot, small pad, and it was 4,000 square feet, you guys. And I walk into this office, and I'm like, how in the heck are we going to fill this place? Right. Like, and he's like, trust me, you want to go bigger, not smaller, because you're going to grow. And I've looked at your financials, and sure enough, signed on the dotted line. At the time, that rent felt like such a big hurdle for me. I was like, how am I going to hit this check every month?
Right.
And you guys, we maxed out that space in less than a year and a half. I mean, we were busting at the seams, and I had a 5-year lease with these people. So now I'm like reconfiguring desks, and I mean, we're pretty much on top of each other. It was, again, so fun. Conference room in the middle of the building, like so fun. And I mean, every stage is fun. It was just a different level of fun, right? Like clients are, we were on a thoroughfare, and we had this giant sign on the building that was as long as a city bus. And just that signage alone, in hindsight, was the best marketing that I could have possibly paid for, because we had 23 feet of brand recognition, 60,000 cars going by. You can't buy that, from an impression standpoint, as a company that has no money. And, I've seen you guys. Yeah, your guys are on Indian School. I totally drive past your building, and that created trust, right? They saw a building, they saw a brand. There was a sense of consistency there. So we leveraged that brand recognition as much as possible. Won some awards, started getting some good clients, right? And the team started realizing that they were having people, hey, I want to come work for you. I hear you're a really good agency. I hear that your boss is really fun. I hear that you guys have a safe place to work. Safe for us means non-toxic, no fingers pointing, right? Like, people aren't getting thrown under the bus for, issues. Like, we really did things different. So
I love it.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I love where you're going with this. And I wanted to just ask you, because this is like our halfway moment.
Okay,
and I always ask all of our guests, all the success you had when you reached the $1 million mark for your business and revenue, what was that mama I made it moment? What was the one moment where you sat there and just maybe sat in the office and was like, holy crap, like, what did I do? And what was that like? Like, what? And also, not part 2 to that, you say a lot about fun. How do you deal with the fun and keep it fun when you're dealing with the pressures of the business?
Okay, so let's answer the first question. I've never had the mama I've made it moment, ever. Even to this day.
We're going to have a talk after this.
Okay.
No, I know where you go. I would love to hear why.
Yeah, I think when business owners get complacent, you know, again, another adage, like if you're not growing, you're dying. And I think that if you sit in the moment, yes, you can be proud, but saying that you've accomplished something and you're done, or, you know, you rest on your laurels too long, you die, you fall backwards, you get, you know, too big headed, you see egos. And I wanted to continue to practice humility, because at the end of the day, I wasn't just doing this for me. I was doing it for my people. I was doing it for our clients. And so for me to make this about me wasn't really the intention, right? That was never the point. And even to today, I feel the same way as well. And I'm sorry, I missed the second question.
And the second one is, because you're dealing with the pressures of being the CEO, you're the face of the brand. How do you keep it fun when you're dealing with so many different personalities, so many different people that you are responsible for?
Sure. I do not take it for granted that I have been so lucky to have the right people on the bus with me, right? Like picking the right people who believe in the vision and people who want to work hard. You got to have both sides of the fence, right? You got to have people who want to be here and want to win. You can't just have cool people that don't get their work done. You can't have people just get their work done, but they're jerks, right? You've got to have that. Do not take that for granted. And what's beautiful is my core leadership team. My president's been here for 10 years. She's amazing. My creative director, 12 years, right? So these guys were all part of the early, right? So having people keep you humble and remember the early days of the business, like Shane and Darren and Meg, right? That's really grounding to have that, and to have that established relationship of, do you remember when, right? And don't get too comfy. So let me just do a little fast forward real fast. You know, you asked about the hard lessons. Remember, I started the business out of hustle and grind, debt, you know, a lot of debt, no cash, really no support. And one of my great stories was that office, that 4,000 square foot office that we moved into. I was having that big sign installed, right? And the guy had to come into my personal office and do the electrical. And I'm typing away, and he's like, is James like the head guy around here? And I'm like, yes, he is. And I just kind of laughed to myself because, you know,
that's
right.
crazy.
I mean, and I didn't correct him, and I just kept typing away, right? Because there's a huge vacancy for heart-centered female leaders in our space, and there's this of like, you know, laughing quietly to myself, I go about my day, and I've had little micro moments like that throughout my journey. But you know, come 2020, we're a staff of 35. We're in a 9,500 square foot state-of-the-art office. We've got, you know, $10 million of recurring revenue and all the projects that we're working on in addition to. And I take my entire team on a cruise to Mexico to celebrate our 15-year anniversary for 3 nights. And, you know, it was so fun. We flew into Newport. We went down to Ensenada, and we had the best time. And this was March 1st of 2020. We come back to Arizona, and the boat that literally left right after us to do the same trip, they're the ones, the cruise ship that got quarantined, that made the national news. So we really had no idea what we were coming into.
Crazy.
Right? March 17th was our actual 15-year anniversary, which is also the day, as you recall, that the world shut down. And in 30 minutes, we lost 62% of our net revenue by way of phone calls, text messages, emails, cancel. Because we were so saturated in the hospitality, food and beverage, entertainment, right? All the world shut down. And I'm sitting here thinking, this is the day I'm going to lose my business. I'm literally laying on the floor, and I left out an important part. Been married for 12 years. I have 2 amazing children, 7 and 8 years old, love of my life. He's an entrepreneur as well. But, you know, I'm laying on the floor, and I'm crying. And my daughter at the time, she was 3, I think, whatever. Yeah, that's probably about right. 4. And she's like, Mom, are you okay? And I said, no, I'm not okay. You know, and I'm really having a hard time. Kind of sat in the swamp for a few hours, got up, and I was like, all right, here we go. Right. I just like strapped it on, and I was like, where do I start? So sent everybody home, and I prayed about it, thought about it. And I said, okay, let's go back to my days of 2008. Do I fire half my staff, furlough, pay cuts? I talked with my husband, Dustin, and we decided, no, we're going to go far. We need to keep everybody employed. And I say we, because he's a big part of my decision process now. And so no layoffs, no furloughs, no pay cuts. We just kept
That's huge.
That's
huge.
Message.
Oh my goodness, that's huge.
So wait, you said it. I gotta touch on it. We're big on family values, and there is a finite, and I mean finite line between overworking. When you're working hard, especially as a 9 to 5 is easy. You clock in, you clock out. You have your average travel time to work. You have your average travel time home. Everybody knows your schedule. Like you said, there's the entrepreneur when you're working till 12 midnight. A lot of times me and Jared are up 1, 2 o'clock in the morning texting, hey, let's do another conference. Let's talk about this. Now that you're remarried, right? Now that you're remarried and you said, let me give this thing a go again, right? And now that you have children, right? How does that affect your family life? Because your family life obviously is super important to you while you're working these type of hours. How strenuous was that?
So early, I would say when my kids were young, like babies and infants, I was still very much in that hybrid role of being very much in the business and on the business, right? Where I was being a supervisor, visionary, the all gas moving forward. But I also was very involved in sales still. I was still doing operational coaching. There were some things that I was in the business on. And it was hard, right? Entrepreneurs, they don't work a 9 to 5, they work a 5 to 9. That's what, the joke is, because the 9 to 5 is to get the work done. The 9 to 5 is to get the work done. The 5 to 9 is to do all the visionary stuff. Right. So you guys at 2 a.m. keep those juices flowing, because that's some of my best ideas in the middle of the night. And I'm no stranger to those thoughts, right? I love that stuff. Some of my best creativity comes out right when I wake up at 4 a.m. But to that point, you have to start creating non-negotiables for yourself as an entrepreneur, because if you don't, you will burn out. You will make yourself physically ill, right? And so I started learning about, okay, if I'm going to operate at this vibration, which is probably 100 times more than most people I know, and I get more done in a 24-hour period than almost half the population, what do I need to do? I need to eat well. I need to exercise. I need to get a minimum of 6 hours of sleep. And so we talked about, Jarrett, like getting rid of the excuses. I didn't have time to cook because I was working my butt off. So I started having a meal delivery service that was curated to my calories, right? And there's a lot of inexpensive ways to do that and really great resources. Again, didn't have time to go to the gym because that took away from me waking up my children. And that was one of my non-negotiables. Built a gym inside my house. Really easy to do, right? Low cost. And so I started creating these non-negotiables. And then what I did is I started finding boundaries for myself, which is different than non-negotiable. So for me, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I was home by 7 o'clock. So I could put my kids to bed and be a part of that when they were infants. But Tuesdays and Thursdays, I had free reign to work. And this was a conversation I had with my husband, to work as late as I wanted. So I knew that I could eat dinner at the office. And if I wanted to come home at 1 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock at night, there was going to be no hardship or grudges, because he knew my vision and he believed in me. And so that really gave me the space to feel comfortable that if I wanted to grind really hard Monday or Tuesdays and Thursdays and just dig into a project, I was going to do it. But then Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I was there for my kids. I was there for my husband, and I was a normal, entrepreneur. So my recommendation or my tip for somebody like you guys is find those boundaries and find those non-negotiables, and then eliminate all the excuses so that it can get to be easier and repetitious for you. Because consistency is the king of success, right? You start building a habit, it will become innate. There's the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That's a great one to reference. And you start creating these atomic habits. It becomes second nature. And then you start tacking in more because you know you can accomplish more. So I don't know if that answered your question well, but
absolutely. The more you talk, the more I understand. Like, this is like this is why the show is created. Like,
cool.
We're getting a lot of business gems, but I feel like I'm getting to know exactly who you are, V. And the more I hear, I'm just like, oh my God, you're effing incredible.
I got another question for you.
Bring it. Let's go.
Listen, I like that. Let him ask all the business questions. I want to know the other stuff. So listen, you was in debt, you got married early, you got divorced, $250,000 in debt. I know it was a moment when you paid that debt off. Did you call your ex like, ha, you motherfucker? Come on, be real. Be real. Did you call him like, paid that off? Did you do a little brush, a little dirt up your shoulder? Like, paid that $250 off.
I definitely did.
Get him.
I didn't have a celebratory moment, but I will tell you the last phone call that I made to pay off the last payment, I remember putting the phone down and feeling like having a visceral reaction, right? Like this tremendous sense of like closure. It was behind me. It was my life moving forward. And it was incredible. That's okay. And what I learned from that very moment is I said, I'm never going to feel that way again.
That's it.
I'm never going to be tied to somebody else's debt or decisions, bad decisions ever. So the point is, you know, we're almost 20 years into this business. This business today still is debt-free, 100% debt-free.
There you go. Like,
and my marriage,
we
live a debt-free lifestyle. You know, we have our mortgage and our cars, but we live a fully debt-free because of my experience in my young life.
Yeah, it is.
I will never feel that way again. And I believe that every major milestone in life or in business is a brick to build you up, right? And to stand on. And so, you know, COVID was freaking hard. It was hard. But we came out with a recession-proof portfolio stronger than ever. And I made it through that entire experience debt-free. I never called on a line of credit. We just, you know, we got really lean and we worked hard. And so it can be done. That's the point I'm trying to say is like the things that seem tumultuous and difficult and you're like in quicksand and there's no way out. That is the character, the fiber that's building you as an entrepreneur as you grow into an old crusty like me, right? And I still have years ahead of me. I got 15, 20 years of hustle, and I'm sure I'm going to have so many more milestones of hardship, but I can reflect on those moments and be like, I can persevere. I can totally get through this. And I can trust my instincts, right? Winging it is not a bad thing at all.
That's so true. This is a perfect segue. What does the mountaintop look like for you, V? Like, so you've been uber successful in your career. Like you're saying 15 years from now, what does the mountaintop, what are some things that you're looking to accomplish that you got your eyes set on to be like, I can hand the business over to family or whoever?
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yes. So I've been thinking a lot about legacy planning, and that's an important part. My kids are 8 and 9, right? They're too young. My girl, she's a little hustler herself, right? She's definitely going to be an ad executive, and she's like, we joke, her name's Rome. We say Rome for president because she gets everybody in line and she's highly creative. But my son, not so much. He's going to be the athlete of the family, right? His football career will go far. But you know, you talk about mountaintops, and I have a dear friend who challenges me all the time. He says, when is enough enough? And he's not being condescending or patronizing. He just says, like, when do you stop? I think for people like us, is there ever an end to creation?
It is for me. It is for me. For me, it is though. And I'm glad you answered that because we ask this question all the time. For me, there is an end. I don't need $100 million. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't need but so much money to live, because at the end of the day, you can get to a certain amount of success, like money-wise, right? Economically, and be like, I can't spend it all, right? I can't spend it all. And then it becomes a problem where, yes, you want to give some to your family, right? But then it's like, who do you take care of? How much? You know what I'm saying? It starts to be more of a burden than a benefit. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Just for me personally, and then me and Jared also have this conversation. Yes, you have workers that work with you, right? And we had the last conversation, I think, we had with Tamil last week. He was like, I have people that work with me, not for me, which was like a big gem.
I have the same philosophy.
So that's the way I feel, right? And Jared knows this, right? Being at an economic, because I've hustled my whole life, I've been hustling since I was a kid. Economically, I've always been above my peers for the most part. When you get to a certain level where the gap starts to get so big that the way I have fun and the way they have fun is just completely different. It's not a disrespect thing, but it starts to cause a tension and a rift between your loved ones, your family, and your friends, right? So like you said, me and Jared take vacations all the time. Easily, we're on 5-6 vacations a year, right? But other people can't do that, right? So if we say, hey, Jared can say, hey, for my birthday, I want to go to Jamaica. We're like, all right, well, I guess we're going to Jamaica, right? But then we can ask other people, and then they're like, yeah, I can't go, we can't go. And then you get angry, like, well, it's my birthday. Why you can't go? Well, because they're not in the same economic. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for me, the mountaintop for me is, being wealthy is good. Having generational wealth is good. But I'd rather create generational wealth upon different generational families so we all can be in the same category. We ain't going to be obviously exactly the same money, but if we're all in the same bracket, then it makes it a lot easier to have genuine friends, right? Genuine friends that love to hang out with you and be around you, and family members, and not just have everybody depend on you. So when you want to do something, you're like, well, I know I'm gonna have to foot this bill because can't nobody fly to Mexico just tomorrow because they feel like it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
So
and I love
yeah.
my favorite, thing that you just said is, for me, it's not about the wealth. For my love language is quality time. So I tell people all the time, I am creating this selfishly because I like this environment. I like to be around the people that I work with. I like the clients I'm working with. And so life is too short. And I travel with my family all the time. So for me, what does the mountaintop look like? It looks like autonomy. It's not about finances. It's about having the autonomy to discern my destiny, where I go, where I travel, who I work with, how my schedule looks. That is the mountaintop. Right. And you're right. More money, more problems. The bigger the company, I've got 40 plus employees. We're getting ready to expand another 4,000 square feet. But that comes with a tremendous amount of responsibility and accountability. And I do not take that for granted, nor do I take that lightly. Right. That's a lot. And that's something that I've curated for myself. But for me, the autonomous ability to discern where I go in my future is a gift. Right. It's to be able to make as little or as much money, to take as much time or as little time, to be around people that I want to be, or just to be completely introverted. I don't have to, and I don't mean this in a wrong way. I don't have to answer to anybody. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to control that and to decide where I go. So
you said that.
Yeah.
I know but that's where I'm at with it. We actually said it the other week. I said, happiness for me is doing what I want, when I want, with the people what I love, and not having to answer to anybody. And like you said, that autonomous decision in your life, right? That's key,
it's
right?
So
but you notice the language that she used. That's a completely different answer than somebody saying financial freedom. If you ask most people what their mountaintop is, or when would they feel happy or to retire, most people are gonna say when I achieve financial freedom. But she already has financial freedom. That's not her answer. It's a completely different answer. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, it's a completely different answer. Yeah.
That's so real. And then I want to ask you, I know we're having real, because I'm having so much fun, V. So
watching some time here.
Yeah, I'm having so much fun.
Are you on a time restraint? Can we keep going?
Nope.
V?
You bet.
Let's go.
Let's go. A couple more. I want to get to the stratagem. I want to get to how you got to that, right?
Let's go.
So you created your own offering. Can you tell us, what is it? Can you explain it to us? And how did you get to it? So what made you in your business say, I have to create this?
Yeah. So, post-COVID, everybody was really scared. Clients were scared. They're like, we have no idea what next steps are for our business. And then, on the heels of that, AI came out of, do you guys feel like AI just came out of nowhere? Like it's having an iPhone moment, right?
Yeah, for sure.
In the last 6 months. Okay.
No, ChatGPT, no, it's crazy. No. It's more mainstream now than it was before.
I have a different intake because I'm military. I'm a veteran.
Okay.
And I know how the military and how they hide stuff. And so I always know that there's stuff there's light years ahead that we don't know about. It's just when do they introduce it to us? You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yep. So, and it just feels like from a consumer awareness perspective, it all just came out, right? And so in October, I was hearing our clients talking about their uncertainty and the economic community and the forecasting being volatile. And we're in a really safe place as a company, being debt free and forward thinking. I said, we need to transfer some of these ethics, this knowledge that we know, to our clients to create certainty. How do we package this up so that clients understand that we can use AI as a functioning tool, but you can't take the human element out of strategic thinking or marketing, right? Like AI is only technically as smart as today, if you really think about it in retrospective, right? And the old ChatGPT is up to September of 2021, but the human ability to utilize that information and think about what's next, strategic marketing for what comes next, is what we came up with. And then to provide that to our clients and say, we understand that you need a plan. Let's utilize the data, the infrastructure, the AI, but let's build a roadmap that creates a certainty of intent so that you can have that clarity of vision, so you know where your business needs to go. And let's get everything that we can to control controlled, so that if there is, like you said, turn left, or if the world changes, that we can be composed for that when that happens, right? And I think that that's where businesses often plummet, is they don't have a plan in place, and then the world goes sideways. And now not only are they trying to keep the wheels on the bus, but they're also navigating an economic downturn or maybe a crisis in the economic community. So Stratagem is that offering that came out of those learnings, right? It came out of COVID. It came out of my history and my path. And what we love about this is it's creating this really unique relationship with our clients of trust and respect and repetition and certainty. And it's like this no risk value proposition that I think is really important. And while everybody's like, oh my God, AI is going to put the industry out of business, I see it as polar opposite. These are resources to get smarter. And so I love your perspective from the military. I think that's amazing. But we're just here to get people to really forecast and think forward. And we've got a really pragmatic plan on how to do that. But again, that just comes from our experience of what we've been through and then how we can transfer that knowledge to our clients and our partners.
That's a huge differentiator.
No, absolutely.
I'll tell you, that's a huge, coming from the agency space, V. Like I've been at some of the big ones, I've been at the small ones, to creating my own. I love, like, first of all, you said the strategy model, but it's a low risk model, right? But then it offers additional touch points for your clients to build that relationship. It's like we're in it. Like if you mess up, like if this thing goes to shit, we're all in the shit.
We're in it.
Yes.
Yeah. I use the phrase like we're getting lost together intentionally. Like we're spending time truly like seeking first to understand versus just throwing spaghetti on the wall. And I think there's a lot of agencies right now who are capitalizing on the fear and they're like, yeah, let's take all your money and we'll throw you a cool campaign, but there's no due diligence behind it or critical thinking. And that's super expensive for a client 2 or 3 years in having to completely reinvent the wheel because it didn't perform. We're investing the time up front. You know, I talked about Shane, his adage is like, you know, smooth is slow, slow is fast, right? And it's true. If you invest the time up front, you can go fast later, but you'll have all of the, you know, all the T's crossed and the I's dotted to make sure. And you'd be surprised how many clients come to us and they're like, this is so refreshing. I can't tell you. We feel like agencies are constantly forcing ideas and pushing us, you know, to go to market without really thinking it through. And with the volatility, you know, in the market, you cannot be making risky decisions like that right now. So we're really excited. It's a different
business model.
It really is.
Yeah, she uses a different business model. Remember, you're not to, you know, tag the company. You're thinking outside the box. Remember, this world is copy paste. Success is based off of previous success. Rinse and repeat, right? Yeah. So when you come into the game and not only, you know, create a different model, but show that it can be successful, and then now you're implementing it. Yeah, you're gonna get some kickback from the other boys that's saying, "Nah, we're gonna do this," because that's what's been working for them. That's just the bottom line. That's why they're doing it, because their bottom line is their stockholders. Their bottom line, you understand, is their market share value, right? And things of that nature. They just want to make profit. And you're saying, yeah, we're going to make profit, but we're going to do it in a way that creates stability. So it's a
intentionality.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
That's it.
Just be intentional.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, because you didn't mention this, but I got to ask you. So you jumped into this space. Did you ever have, I never heard you say like you had a mentor. Did you ever have somebody that you looked up to that kind of like was where you wanted to be before you know, started your path, that kind of helped, you know, even if it wasn't every day, that kind of gave you words of wisdom or checked in on you, gave you some gems to get you started? That's part one. And part two, now that you're in the space, do you now give back and mentor others, like younger women or younger men and things of that nature? I'm curious to hear that.
So yes, and yes. I can't attribute my mentorship to one person. I joined a group called Entrepreneurs Organization. It's a global organization of entrepreneurs who, once you achieve $1 million of top line revenue, you qualify. So you have to be founder, co-founder, or majority controlling shareholder at $1 million of revenue annually, top line. And I kept, you know, my friend's like, you got to join. I'm like, dude, I don't have time. He's like, that's why you got to join, because they're teaching you how to work yourself out of the business. What I didn't realize is the submersion of being around 165 at the time, like-minded entrepreneurs made me realize I wasn't on my own island, that I had access to people so that I didn't have to reinvent the wheel every time I ran into some kind of trial or tribulation. I could pick up the phone and call, and they may be in different industries, but the storyline is the same, right? They all had that journey to 7 figures or 8 figures, and they could tell me when they had a collections issue, how they managed it, or, you know, when I was emotionally and, you know, kind of in the crux, they'd be like, this is normal. If you're feeling the burn, it means you're growing, right? To have that support. And within EO, I have a forum that I'm still in today, very same forum, of 10 people. And they're like my board of advisors, for lack of better words, all different industries. So and we would, you know, Teddy, we meet every month for 6 hours. And we go through, kind of what we call the top 5, bottom 5, the top 5% and the bottom 5% of what's happening in your business, in your family, and in personal, because your business isn't right if your family's not right. And if you're not right, none of that's right. Right.
Message. Oh my goodness. That's oh my God.
I gotta clip that. V, we gotta clip that. I'm sorry. We gotta clip that. That was big. That was big. So go ahead.
Yeah. So if you don't have your have a lopsided stool, if you don't have your 3 legs in place. And so that's what cultivated me really understanding the ethos of EO is not only are you not on your own island, but you really have to align in those priorities. And the reason why they call it the top 5, bottom 5 is the middle 90%. That's like the barista update. That's the stuff that you tell the friend or the girl you're getting coffee with. But that's not really, if we really talk about entrepreneurialism, there are things that are keeping you up at night or opportunities that you probably don't share, even with your spouse or with your business partner. That's the top 5, bottom 5. And so EO, we go deep. We don't spend time on the barista stuff. We go into the what's keeping you up at night, what are things that you're trying to accomplish or opportunities. And then from that shared learning, those shared experiences, that mentorship for me is what really propelled me. And so I proudly say this is an EO-led organization. And I practice a lot of the cultural elements that I've learned from other really successful businesses. And it's so funny, every time I go to my forum meeting, my team's like, oh God, V's coming back with some new ideas. Like they just know, right?
They know,
right?
They get ready. Ready.
And they believe it because they know it works, right? And EOers, and there's another group called YPO, which
YPO,
is typically, okay. And that's more like hired guns, C-suite executives. My husband's in that. I love that we have, it's the same ethos, shared philosophy, except YPO isn't founders, co-founders, and majority controlling shareholders, right? But it's cool because they share the same narrative, the learning, the confidentiality, and the top 5, bottom 5. So that's really amazing for me to have a personal partner that understands that sometimes I'm kind of going through some stuff and I can't probably tell him, right? And he understands and respects that. And that sometimes I need to go to one of my forum mates instead. And so it's a beautiful thing. And I highly recommend, there's an incubator program called Accelerator. It's 0 to 999,000 is the qualifications. An amazing program for up and comers like yourselves who are winging it and bootstrapping it. And it's an international group, and I cannot testify the mentorship, learning, support, camaraderie. And I've had the privilege of being the chapter president of our organization. So I traveled to Germany and Thailand and all these international places on behalf. So it's pretty amazing.
Man.
That's insane. Sherry, thank you for pulling. Everybody's on the comments. I'm so into the screen and the lessons. I forgot we had comments. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm getting to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm getting to you. But V, I got to ask you too, because we've had a lot of crazy guests. We have some amazing guests, right? We've heard the story of how Flow from Progressive was created. The Cliff Paul story. So many. And I would love to know from you, what is one piece of work that you're really proud of, because you're an award-winning agency, and what is one story that you don't mind sharing with us that was like maybe very difficult, was tough, you found out how to get it done, and then you did it and it came out outstanding? What was that story like?
I couldn't even pick just one, to be honest, Jarrett. Like there's so many amazing, but I would say some of our favorite projects were back in the day when we didn't have a big budget, right? But we loved the client and we loved the vision. And so I think that's probably when some of the best work came out of this agency, is when we were really nimble and scrappy, and we do amazing work. Now I think our most exciting campaigns are the ones that really make a massive dent in the clients, right? We represent the Fiesta Bowl, which is one of the college bowl games, and they're more than a game, right? Their whole contribution to community, they donate millions of dollars of grants every year, and the fact that we get to be a part of that contribution and success is amazing. And so we love shared values in our clients. So, it put me on the spot there. I can't think of just one project, but different seasons of business ownership to remember, and different wins, culminated together. It's an amazing story. Maybe I'll write a book one day. So
I'm going to ask, well, first of all, I know because we're off camera, I don't want to take too much time, but V, I just want to say, this was an amazing interview, right? Like I was
Thank
looking
you.
forward to this. I've learned so much. I know everybody. Our comments are blowing up right now, so
I'm
they
happy
love
to
you.
answer if there's any questions or anything.
There was no specific. It was just like your
Okay.
information is everything. Like I love this. Like I'm so engaged right now. It's like one of those. So if you guys have questions, V's open. Please get them in. We could probably a couple more minutes. But
Yep, you bet.
I just want to say like this was amazing, V. Like I'm rooting for you now. I've been to Scottsdale. I love Scottsdale, and I'm gonna give you the same invite we give to everybody. If you're ever in New York, please let us know. You have dinner on.
I'll be there in October.
Yeah.
And you got dinner
And when
on
you
us.
guys are in Arizona, you come on over.
Please,
You pop in anytime.
Please cash in on the ticket.
I don't know if I'm going to Arizona.
Scottsdale is beautiful. Scottsdale
Don't
is
come
beautiful.
right now. It's
Kind of hot. It's
gonna
hot.
be
That's what I
110.
said.
Yeah.
It's too hot out there.
Oh, no,
I
love
got that
it.
natural hair.
I love Scottsdale.
Sweat my curls out. No, but let me ask you this question before we go to also,
Sure.
And this is big in the entrepreneurial space. This is big in the personal job space. I know I kind of know what your answer is gonna be, but I gotta ask you anyway, right? So you've had the ups, you've had the downs, right? So you're telling me at no point in time, right? At no point in time did you get to that moment where you was like, I'm done. Like I tried it. I'm done.
So
You know what
many
I mean?
times.
Like I just want to hear
Dude.
one time where something happened where you was like, turn the lights off. You know what I'm saying? Call a cab. I'm out of here. Like,
I would be
Right.
lying to you if it doesn't happen
Okay.
at least once a year. At least once a year, I have
Okay.
a moment of like,
Love the
Okay.
rose.
Okay.
F all of this, right?
Right.
This is not worth
Right.
it.
Right.
And I kind of like, my really good friend Lauren, she calls it sit in the swamp. You just sit in the swamp for a minute. You like kind of live in your pity party.
Yeah.
And for me, a good night's rest or, a celebratory meal, whatever it is to get me, back into my spirit. But that's the spirit of entrepreneurialism as you wake up the next morning and you're like, all right, cool. Another notch in my belt. Let's go. Because failing data, right? I talked about that at the top of the cast. When somebody challenges me, I just want to prove that I can do it. And that's, I think, the spirit of any kind of business owner. So, but no, I mean, sometimes I'll have a moment where I'm like, just throw my computer through the glass. My office is all glass.
Right.
And there have been days where I literally just walk out and I get in my car and I go do something, and I come back and I'm like, okay, like I'm ready, but I just need in a minute.
Right.
But no, it is not unnatural to feel that way. And I do not want to make your audience think that it was easy, because it's hard.
so hard.
It is
No,
so hard.
They know it's hard, but when they hear so many successful stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they hear about the motivation and the grind, I just like to have our guests, be relatable to them and let them know that you are still a human being, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a robot,
Right?
right?
Yeah,
Everybody is
exactly.
different. And I keep stressing this. I said this to AD Dolph, right? Your motivation and your mental mindset is not somebody else's. It's not somebody else's. You might need this much energy to go and you're going for weeks. Somebody might need this much energy, right? And then you might be able to take this kind of, stress and wipe it off. And then some people with this kind of stress, they like, yo, I can't do it. So it's great for them to hear you normalize yourself and make you relatable. Like, I've had those moments, right? Because then it makes them feel like, okay, I'm not the only one,
push
right?
through.
I
Somebody
can
could be
push
listening
through.
right now that's
Absolutely.
going through it like, well,
Absolutely.
V did it. I'm
Totally.
I did it,
And every
yeah.
milestone of challenge is,
Yeah.
like I said, it's a building block, but you kind of become anesthetized to stress, right? So like what used to rock my world, stress wise, like isn't even a thing anymore, right? And then, something big happens like a COVID or, losing 62% of your revenue. Now that's a big thing. And if it happened again, that would probably rock me again. But those little micro moments or big moments become the fiber of strength for you to be able to persevere. And that's a really important thing. Again, like don't disregard the hard, because it is your backbone as a business owner. It is what you fall back on to make sure that you don't fail. And it will happen. There have been so many lessons learned. Clients are hard. Collecting money is hard, right?
Yeah.
The economy is hard. Balancing family, making sure that you're healthy. There's a lot to deal with. And, people who want to start a business, you are not on your own island, right? Just know that there's a community of people out there like myself. So to answer your question, yes, I do give back. That's a big part of my season of life right now is mentoring, training my team, training, clients who want me to mentor their new staff, through EO, whatever it is. That's an important part is to share, but I'm still learning too. That's, I think, a humility moment is I don't know everything.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna put it on air. I would love to learn from you, V, and continue to learn from you. So I'm
Absolutely.
gonna give you my contact, please.
Yes,
I can't
please.
wait for you to come back to
Absolutely.
October. If there's any way we could help you, we've got a lot of relationships. Like if anything we could do, like I would love to just talk to you and just continue to pick your brain. But for anybody listening, this was full of gems. Like this was one of them episodes, y'all. You can see I'm smiling. I've been smiling the whole damn episode, and I was also
Great.
because of the drink.
She's 20 years in now, right?
20 years in.
20
Almost.
years in, V?
Yeah. Yeah.
Almost 2 decades.
Yeah.
So
to you.
are you sentimental at like the reason I ask, because you started with the couch story. Did you bring anything from that apartment with you along your journey, like frame it or something to say, like, just to look back and say, yo, I started here?
Yeah.
Are you
So
sentimental
I'm facing my computer, but above me in my office right here is a credenza, and I have little moments from my journey of things that have gifted me. But one of them that I have is our very first like door sign from our first little 800 square foot office. It sits above my desk. It's the old logo. It's about this big. Right. And it was the door identifier. And that's just a little bit of a moment to remind me of humble. It
humbles you. I like that. I like that.
Love it.
Yeah. So tell the people where they can find you.
I was gonna say,
okay, my fault.
We doing it.
Super easy. All social handles at thejamesagency.com. Hit us up. We're always on there. We're highly engaged. If you want to, and then through there, my team will give emails, contacts, whoever you want to talk to. And I know you guys have my information too, but at the James Agency on all platforms. And we'd love to hear from everybody.
And do you guys do internships? Just curious.
We do.
There's a lot of
do.
up and coming people that ask me all the time about, hey, do your guests actually do internships and stuff like that?
We do. We call it apprenticeships actually, because we believe apprenticeships should be real life work, right? So it is paid. And it's an important part of our ecosystem to mentor those people, but we also want those guys to have real life experiences. So you're not getting coffee or pushing paper, you're learning directly from clients, you're learning directly from the team, and then you're part of our culture. So we do a ton of cultural programming. The team builds the quarterlies. We include our apprentices. We had a gal come with us yesterday. We let her present to the client directly, and it was an amazing experience for the client to say, keep this girl, she's awesome. And that was probably a big moment for our apprentice to feel like, wow, like I got to present and I was heard and I got the kudos that I felt that she deserved. So we love interns, but we treat them like one of our own.
Message.
Love that. That's a message.
That's a message.
I love that. Shout out to your entire team. Shout out to
Thank
UV. Shout out to Molly. Thank you for reaching out, Molly. Thank you for connecting this. Thank you for setting
Thank
this
you,
up.
Molly.
This would not happen. Like I really, really appreciate you. For everybody on the check-in, thank you for all the comments. Thank you for the continued love. We've been growing and glowing every week because of you guys, and it means a lot to us. We're winging it, like we're winging it. We're making it.
You're using your intuition.
But it's about the journey, not the destination.
Yeah,
and there's moments like this that make it everything. So we're gonna see you guys next week. We got one more episode left for season 3. We got Brett Hyman, the real Project X story. He created events for high school and turned it into $100 million business. It's gonna be crazy. I can't wait to learn. But V, you are amazing. I'm a big fan, and we can't wait to see more of you.
I appreciate you guys and your energy.
Until part 2.
Yeah, right.
Definitely. Whenever you want.
I do that all the time. I'll come back.
We gotta have a part 2. Please. Yeah, we gotta have a part 2.
And then when you guys are on your mountaintop, I can't wait to celebrate you guys, right? So
it really means a lot.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. I really value and appreciate you including me in your journey, and I can't wait to see where you guys are going.
Absolutely.
We're gonna be we're locked in now, V. But we're gonna see you guys. See you next week, y'all.
What you know about me? Seeing it all.